Bangkok, the bustling metropolis known for its vibrant street life and rich cultural tapestry, was the destination of choice for my wife, Emily, and me for our long-awaited vacation. We were excited to immerse ourselves in the city's vibrant atmosphere and explore its rich history. Little did we know that our adventure in Bangkok would take a dark and terrifying turn. Our journey began with the exploration of Bangkok's historic temples. We marveled at the grandeur of the Grand Palace and the serene beauty of Wat Pho, with its famous reclining Buddha. However, it was a chance encounter with a local vendor that set the stage for our descent into the unknown. While wandering through the bustling streets of the city, we came across an old vendor selling antique trinkets and curiosities. Among the eclectic assortment of items, one particular object caught our attention: a tarnished bronze mirror with an ornate handle. Its surface was clouded with age, but there was something about it that drew us in. The vendor, an elderly woman with weathered hands and a twinkle in her eye, explained that the mirror was said to possess mystical properties. She claimed that it had once belonged to a powerful sorcerer who had used it to communicate with spirits from beyond the veil of the living. Emily and I were skeptics by nature, but the mirror's intriguing history and the old woman's captivating storytelling piqued our curiosity. We decided to purchase it as a unique souvenir of our trip, thinking little of the consequences that would follow. That night, as we returned to our hotel room, we placed the antique mirror on the bedside table. Its tarnished surface reflected the dim glow of the room's lamp, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Emily and I couldn't help but be captivated by its enigmatic allure. As we lay in bed, I noticed that the room had grown unusually cold. I glanced at the air conditioning unit, but it was turned off. The sensation of being watched washed over me, and I turned to Emily, who was already fast asleep. My gaze drifted to the antique mirror, and I froze in terror. In its reflection, I saw a figure standing at the foot of our bed, a shadowy silhouette with hollow eyes that seemed to penetrate my soul. It was unlike any reflection I had ever seen. I jolted upright, my heart racing, and the figure vanished from the mirror. Panic surged through me as I realized that I had not been alone in witnessing this inexplicable event. Emily lay beside me, her eyes open and vacant, her body unresponsive. I shook her, desperately calling her name, but she remained in a catatonic state. I felt a presence in the room, an oppressive weight that seemed to bear down on us. It was as if something had crossed over from the other side, and I was powerless to stop it. The figure reappeared in the mirror, its presence more pronounced and menacing. It gestured toward me with long spectral fingers, beckoning me to approach. I was consumed by dread, but a strange compulsion compelled me to do its bidding. As I reached out toward the mirror, my fingers brushed against the glass, and a surge of cold energy coursed through me. I felt as though I were being pulled into the mirror, into a realm of darkness and despair. I found myself in a place that defied all logic, a nightmarish world of twisted landscapes and tormented souls. The air was thick with malevolence, and the sky was a perpetual twilight. I was not alone in this desolate realm. Spectral figures, their features contorted in agony, roamed the barren landscape. They whispered in a language I couldn't understand, their voices a haunting, discordant chorus. I could feel their sorrow and despair, their need for release from this wretched place. Emily was there with me, her vacant eyes mirroring the anguish of the tormented souls around us. We were not in control of our own movements, as if we were being guided by an unseen force. The malevolent figure from the mirror watched over us, its eyes devoid of emotion. The figure gestured for us to follow, and we were compelled to obey. We wandered through the nightmarish landscape, witnessing the suffering of the spectral souls that surrounded us. It was a place of eternal torment, and there was no escape. As we continued to move through this dark realm, I became aware of a presence that was different from the others, a powerful, malevolent force that seemed to hunger for our souls. It was the source of the torment, the entity that had drawn us into this nightmarish dimension. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced the darkness, and we were pulled back into our hotel room. Emily lay beside me, her eyes closed, her body limp. The malevolent figure from the mirror was gone, but the room was filled with an oppressive darkness. I shook Emily, and she slowly stirred, her eyes filled with confusion. She had no memory of the nightmarish realm we had just experienced, and I could hardly bring myself to recount the horrors we had witnessed. The antique mirror stood on the bedside table, its tarnished surface now clear and pristine. It seemed to mock us with its enigmatic allure, a portal to a world of darkness and despair. We knew that we had encountered something beyond our understanding, something ancient and malevolent. The mirror, with its mystical properties, had drawn us into a realm of torment, and we had been fortunate to escape with our lives. Terrified and shaken, we left the mirror behind as we checked out of the hotel. It was a chilling reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation, and that sometimes the allure of the unknown can lead to a descent into darkness. To this day, Emily and I cannot forget the horrors we encountered in Bangkok and the malevolent shadow that crossed over from the other side. It serves as a chilling warning to those who dare to tamper with the supernatural, a reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved.
As an adventurous traveler, I had always been drawn to places with a hint of mystery, where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural blurred. So, when my friends suggested a trip to the infamous Isla de las Muñecas, the island of dolls, near Mexico City, I eagerly agreed. Little did I know that this visit would turn into an eerie encounter with the otherworldly. The island was situated deep within the Xochimilco canals, a labyrinthine network of waterways that snaked through the lush Mexican countryside. Its reputation was chilling. It was said to be haunted by the tormented spirits of the dead, and its trees were adorned with thousands of dolls, each one a tribute to the lost souls who had met a tragic end. The legend behind the island was equally unsettling. Don Julian Santana, the island's caretaker, had claimed to have found a drowned girl in the canals years ago. He believed her spirit haunted the island and began collecting dolls to appease her restless soul. Some said he was mad, while others believed in the haunting presence that had driven him to this peculiar obsession. Our journey to the island of dolls began with a boat ride through the labyrinthine canals. The atmosphere was serene, with the sounds of nature and the distant laughter of tourists in the background. But as we approached the island, a sense of unease settled over me. The island loomed before us, its trees weighed down by thousands of dolls in various states of decay. Their glassy eyes stared vacantly into the distance, and their mangled limbs hung from branches like grotesque ornaments. It was a macabre sight, a forest of the forsaken. We disembarked from the boat and were greeted by a local guide, Miguel, who regaled us with tales of the island's eerie history. As we wandered deeper into the tangled undergrowth, he pointed out dolls with missing heads and discolored skin, recounting stories of their supernatural origins. The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive as we delved further into the island's interior. The air seemed to thicken with an unspoken sorrow, and a sense of foreboding settled over our group. It was as if the very trees were whispering secrets of the past. I was drawn to a particularly eerie doll, its face weathered and cracked. It dangled from a branch by a single frayed string, swaying gently in the breeze. As I reached out to touch it, a sudden gust of wind caused the doll to swing wildly, as if it were trying to escape. Miguel chuckled nervously and warned us not to touch the dolls. He explained that they were believed to be vessels for the spirits of the dead, and disturbing them could invite their wrath. Despite his warning, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dolls were watching us, their glassy eyes following our every move. As we continued our tour of the island, I noticed something peculiar. A doll, unlike the others, perched high in a tree. It was a porcelain doll, remarkably intact, and it seemed out of place among the weathered and decaying dolls that surrounded it. Curiosity compelled me to climb the tree and retrieve the doll. Its porcelain skin was cold to the touch, and its eyes seemed to bore into my soul. It was a beautiful and haunting object, and I couldn't resist the urge to take it with me as a souvenir of our visit. That night, back in our hotel room in Mexico City, I placed the porcelain doll on the bedside table. Its presence was both enchanting and unsettling, and I couldn't tear my gaze away from its glassy eyes. My friends dismissed my unease as an overactive imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had brought something more than a simple souvenir back with me. As I lay in bed, a sense of dread washed over me. The room seemed to grow colder, and the air was heavy with an unspoken presence. I watched in horror as the porcelain doll on the bedside table began to move, its limbs shifting as if it were coming to life. I tried to scream, to call out to my friends, but no sound escaped my lips. The doll's glassy eyes fixed on mine, and a malevolent grin spread across its porcelain face. It was as if it were mocking my fear, reveling in my helplessness. With a sudden jerky movement, the doll launched itself off the bedside table and onto the bed. It moved with unnatural speed, its porcelain limbs contorting in ways that should have been impossible. It was a nightmarish dance, a macabre display of malevolence. The doll drew nearer to me, its tiny hands reaching out, and I felt a surge of cold energy coursing through me. It was as if the doll were trying to possess me, to merge its malevolent spirit with mine. With a final burst of strength, I managed to break free from the doll's icy grip and fled from the room, my heart pounding with terror. My friends found me in the hallway, my face pale and my eyes wide with fear. I tried to explain what had happened, but they dismissed it as a nightmare brought on by the island's eerie atmosphere. Determined to rid myself of the malevolent doll, I sought the guidance of a local shaman, who performed a cleansing ritual to banish the spirit that had taken hold of it. Slowly, the oppressive atmosphere in the hotel room lifted, and I felt a sense of relief. As I returned to the island of dolls one last time, I placed the porcelain doll in a secluded spot, far from the other dolls. It seemed to watch me with a mixture of sadness and gratitude, as if it had been freed from the malevolent force that had bound it. The island remained a place of eerie fascination, but I had learned a valuable lesson about the power of the supernatural. Some mysteries are best left undisturbed, and the island of dolls would forever be a chilling reminder of the thin veil that separates the natural from the supernatural.
Pawley's Island, a tranquil stretch of South Carolina coastline, had always been a haven for vacationers seeking sun, sea, and relaxation. However, my friends and I were not ordinary vacationers. We were avid ghost hunters, drawn to the island's rich history and the eerie tales that shrouded its shores. The day we arrived on Pawley's Island, the sun cast a warm and inviting glow over the sandy shores. Families built sandcastles, and laughter filled the air. But beneath the idyllic surface lay stories of restless spirits and unexplained phenomena, tales we couldn't resist investigating. As night descended on the island, we gathered our ghost hunting equipment, EMF meters, digital voice recorders, and night vision cameras. We embarked on our adventure, determined to uncover the mysterious that lay hidden in the shadows of Pawley's Island. Our first stop was the Pawley's Island Chapel, a quaint and weathered structure that stood as a testament to the island's history. Local legends spoke of apparitions and ghostly voices that echoed within its walls, and we were eager to explore its eerie interior. The chapel's wooden pews creaked beneath our weight as we entered, and the air grew still and heavy. Our EMF meters began to spike erratically, their lights flashing in response to an unseen presence. It was a chilling confirmation that we were not alone. We gathered in the center of the chapel, setting up our digital voice recorder and asking questions in the hopes of capturing paranormal activity. To our astonishment, the recorder picked up faint whispers and indistinct voices, as if the spirits of the past were trying to communicate. We strained to decipher their messages, our hearts pounding with anticipation. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the chapel, extinguishing the candles we had set up on the altar. The room plunged into darkness, and a sense of dread washed over us. Then it happened. An apparition materialized before us, a figure bathed in an eerie blue light. It was a woman, her form both beautiful and ethereal. Her eyes held a profound sadness, and her spectral presence sent shivers down our spines. The chapel filled with a mournful wailing, as if the very walls were echoing the woman's anguish. We could do nothing but watch in awe and terror as the apparition reached out to us, her spectral fingers brushing against our skin. Her touch was like ice, a shock of cold energy that sent a surge of dread through us. We tried to communicate with her, to ask if she needed help, but her voice was a whisper in the wind, barely audible. She gestured toward the chapel's altar, as if urging us to uncover the truth of her suffering. With a final desperate plea, the apparition faded away, leaving us with a profound sense of helplessness and dread. We knew that we had encountered something beyond our understanding, something that was trapped in a cycle of suffering. As we left the chapel, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had disturbed a restless spirit, that our presence had stirred up the supernatural forces that lingered within its walls. The thrill of ghost hunting had given way to a haunting reality, and we were forever changed by the experience. In the days that followed, we sought the guidance of local spiritual leaders, who performed rituals to appease the spirits of Pawley's Island and cleanse us of any lingering malevolent energy. Slowly, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the nightmares ceased. But our quest for the supernatural was far from over. We had heard whispers of a haunted stretch of beach, a place where ghostly apparitions were said to roam the shoreline under the cover of darkness. We couldn't resist the lure of the unknown, and we set out one fateful night to investigate. The beach was eerily quiet, the moon casting long shadows on the sand. Our footsteps were muffled by the sound of crashing waves, and the air was thick with anticipation. We roamed the shoreline, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. As we combed the beach, our EMF meters began to spike erratically, their lights flashing in response to an unseen force. It was a chilling sign that we were not alone, that something supernatural lurked in the shadows. Suddenly, the temperature dropped dramatically, and a cold mist enveloped us. The air grew thick with a palpable malevolence, and we knew that we had stumbled upon something sinister. The mist coalesced into a spectral figure, a shadowy silhouette with hollow eyes that seemed to penetrate our souls. It was unlike anything we had encountered before, a malevolent presence that radiated darkness and despair. Panic surged through Yus as the figure drew nearer, its spectral hands reaching out toward Yus. We tried to flee, but an invisible force held Yus in place, as if we were puppets in the hands of a malevolent puppeteer. The figure gestured toward the ocean, and we were compelled to follow its command. We waded into the freezing water, our clothes drenched and our bodies shivering from the cold. The waves crashed around us, and we could hear faint whispers in the wind, voices of the drowned and the damned. With a final agonized cry, the figure dissipated into the mist, leaving us stranded in the frigid ocean. We fought against the relentless waves, struggling to make our way back to shore. When we finally reached the safety of the beach, we knew that we had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. The encounter had left us shaken and terrified, a chilling reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation, and that sometimes the pursuit of the supernatural can lead to a terrifying encounter with the unknown. As we left Pawley's island behind, we couldn't forget the horrors we had witnessed. The tranquil shores and historic landmarks held secrets that were both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder that the boundary between the natural and the supernatural is thin and porous. Pawley's Island would forever remain a place of fascination and dread, a haunting memory of our ghost hunting adventure gone horribly wrong.
Bali, the island of the gods, had always seemed like the perfect destination for our honeymoon. The promise of pristine beaches, lush jungles, and a rich tapestry of culture lured my husband David and me to this Indonesian paradise. But little did we know that our dream honeymoon would soon unravel into a terrifying ordeal of the supernatural. We arrived in Bali, eager and filled with the enchantment of newlyweds, ready to explore the island's secrets. Our villa was nestled in the heart of the jungle, a secluded paradise with a private pool and breathtaking views of emerald green rice terraces. It was a slice of heaven, and we basked in the serenity that surrounded us. The first days in Bali were pure magic. We visited ancient temples, hiked through the verdant jungles, and reveled in the cuisine that tantalized our taste buds. The island's beauty was beyond words, and we felt like we had stepped into a romantic dream. As night descended upon our jungle villa, the air was filled with the enchanting symphony of crickets and frogs. The moonlight danced on the surface of our private pool, and the fragrance of frangipani blossoms wafted through the air. It was the perfect setting for a honeymoon. However, as the days turned into weeks, a creeping unease began to infiltrate our paradise. I would wake in the middle of the night to find the room eerily cold, despite the tropical climate. At first, I attributed it to the air conditioning, but the chill became more pervasive with each passing night. One evening, David and I returned to our villa after a romantic dinner in Ubud. As we stepped inside, we heard a faint but melodic chanting like a chorus of angelic voices. We followed the ethereal sound to our backyard, where we discovered a group of locals gathered around a ceremonial fire. The villagers were performing a ritual, their voices rising and falling in harmony with the flickering flames. It was a mesmerizing spectacle, and we watched in awe, captivated by the otherworldly beauty of their traditions. But as the ritual continued, the air grew heavy with a palpable malevolence. The villagers' faces twisted in anguish, and their chanting took on a mournful tone. We realized that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, the ground beneath the fire gave way, revealing a dark and gaping chasm. A figure emerged from the depths, a spectral woman with long, flowing hair and a tattered white gown that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Her eyes were hollow, devoid of warmth or humanity. The spectral woman reached out to us, her spectral fingers brushing against our skin. A surge of cold energy coursed through us, and we felt as though we were being pulled into a world of darkness and despair. We tried to flee, to escape the woman's grasp, but an invisible force held us in place, as if we were trapped in a nightmarish web. The woman gestured toward the chasm, urging us to enter, and we were compelled to follow her command. As we descended into the abyss, the spectral woman's form grew more distinct, and we could see the torment etched into her face. She opened her mouth, and a chilling wail filled the air, as if she were trying to convey a message from beyond the grave. We tumbled through a surreal and horrifying landscape, surrounded by swirling mists and shadowy figures. It was a realm of suffering and torment, a place where lost souls were trapped in an endless cycle of anguish. Just as we thought we would be lost forever, we were jolted back to reality, lying on the jungle floor, gasping for breath. The spectral woman had disappeared, and the chasm had closed. David and I were left shaken and terrified, unable to comprehend the horrors we had witnessed. We returned to our villa, determined to leave Bali and put the nightmare behind us. As we left the island, we couldn't forget the haunting experience that had marred our dream honeymoon. The pristine beaches, lush jungles, and rich culture of Bali had revealed a dark and sinister side, a reminder that the line between love and horror can be disturbingly thin. Bali would forever remain a place of fascination and dread, a haunting memory of our honeymoon gone horribly wrong.